Hey guys, Joe Colucci here with the baseballswing.com, taking a look at Aaron Judge. And specifically in this video, um, I'd like to kind of compare some of his older swings with his, new move. But boy, look at this. This is a beautiful swing. Trouble is, this is from, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I'm of the belief that I know this doesn't add up statistically, so you metric guys, stay out of my comments with your nonsense. Um, yeah, so Judges obviously took off. He hooked up with that guy, Teacher Man, and that's a whole nother story. And his background and whatnot. I'm not going to get into that. Just stick to the mechanics here and what I believe, and it's not similar to what he believes. So as we look at Judge again with the old swing, we're going from heel plant forward, but and his load was a little different, maybe a little more traditional. However, what I'm seeing here is a very tight or steep angle into the ball. Two different things. This is tight. The bat angle's a little bit steep, but he is a little steeper yet now. So, but I see some good things also. Arm kind of draped across the chest. Um, this right elbow is going to work in line with his right side or right hip. As he kind of comes down here, approaching impact, you're going to see a lot of connection between his right elbow and his right side. So it's not jetting out in front of him like you're going to see later. Now, Judge in the game seems to tend to have a knack for being very connected. You will see him a little more bowed out sometimes now, but that's neither here nor there. Really, what we're talking about is this connection that he's working towards. I don't think he's quite got there yet with his swing, but I do believe it's a negative, and I don't think it's going to help him. Anyway, so his right elbow back then and today tends to stay connected with his right side, and it gives him a good chance to let the ball travel and create a lot of power. Um, the gist of this is what's happening with his path and the plane of his bat. So as these lines pop up, what we're looking for here is the ball's coming down at 5 degrees or so. We're looking for this line here to be as even with the pitch plane as possible. Meaning, if his bat's on that line, or in this case, because the barrel's, you don't want to hit it off the end of the bat, a line should be underneath it, right? Judge does a decent job here. He's not swinging upward too violently. He's a little more level through impact. And I'm estimating that this is the area where he's going to hit the ball solid, somewhere in here, although this might be a little low. He's on plane for a decent amount of time. There's guys in the major leagues and guys everywhere, frankly, that are in the zone maybe a little bit longer, but this is by no means terrible. All right, I want to point out one other thing I kind of like about his old swing versus the new one. It's his head position. So if we draw a line down from his chin when he gets into heel plant, he works down into the ball, into impact, but his chin's in line with that. In other words, he's not going backwards, forcing himself to make room for his arms. He looks more athletic here. He's transferring more energy into the ball. And that's not something you're going to see in this next swing, which is, again, a little more current, certainly after he's been working with this new instructor. So we get into heel plant, and you'll see Judge is on a little bit more of an angle, tilt-wise, than he used to be. Shoulders might even be a little bit more closed, but again, nothing drastically different, nothing of importance. Again, he seems to be on this particular swing. Now you gotta remember too, like you can't take a swing and say this is what this guy does. They're adjusting on the fly. They have good days, bad days, etc. But just in general terms, and I watch Judge, probably 100 nights out of the year play, and he is great, really great. But he's a little tighter here, but arm still draped across the chest. Looks like this elbow is getting a little closer to his hip earlier. I think that's because he's tilting just a little bit more. Um, but you don't see the bat kind of snapping down like Teacher Man talks about. Not on this swing anyway. And we have similar pitches, by the way, too. My concern here with this swing is he's very much on his right leg. He's hanging back where he's creating no energy into the ball, just kind of his arms swinging out in front of him. Although, look, he's one frame from impact here, and his elbow is next to that right side. So this is the thing I'm talking about. I don't think he's working to be here. I think he wants his hands and arms further out in front of his chest, and I'll touch on that in a minute. And this is a problem. Like if he can stay in this connected position where his right arm is kind of along his right side, he's going to be fine, right? I mean, obviously he's going to be fine. He's more than fine. But the big cause for concern here with his quote unquote new move is the bat plane and path going into the ball. So again, very steep. But here, look, these are measurements, guys. This is math. I'm not making this up. And I didn't search the internet for, a swing to prove my point. It's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys, hopefully share some knowledge. But this is where I have the only area where he can hit the ball. And I think he's even back here as being gracious, and he's going to pop it up. Again, pitch coming down around 5 degrees. And Judge's, he's swinging under the ball here. And because of that kind of action where he gets very tilty and the bat goes back behind him, the Teacher Man, snaps it back, although he doesn't really do it too much here. You get the bat below the plane of the pitch, and then it drastically comes up. And you can see that in the arc here with Judge. Now, let me just kind of squash the haters right now. I love this guy as a player. He is, believe me, if you don't watch him every day, kind of like I do, you don't even appreciate what he does. He's becoming intelligent-wise like an A-Rod. He steals a base here and there, only when it's important. He is an absolutely outstanding defensive player. He throws the ball with accuracy and power like honestly nobody I've ever seen, and it is effortless. It just comes out of his hands like a rocket, and he is so under control. And glove-wise, he goes and gets it a little bit. This guy's fabulous. Fabulous. Great leader, the whole thing. I don't think his swing mechanics are better. I think he was, if I had to guess, because when he got with this instructor, his new instructor, he took off, right, as a rookie. My belief is this. He was a first-round draft choice. He has oodles of talent. He seems to be a hard worker as well. I think he just needed to do some things that happen naturally over time. Now, remember, hitting mechanics aren't the only thing involved with being a good hitter. It's pitch recognition. It is, timing, etc. And it's just an overall understanding of keys and how to become a better hitter based on repetitions, experience. The longer you're playing, the more people you're around, the more information you gather. And eventually a guy like this with this kind of talent, being a first-round pick, I think he was headed for good things regardless. And my opinion is if he had never gotten with this guy and started doing whatever he's doing with his swing, and I do understand what he's doing and trying to do. And it's not the worst thing in the world. It isn't. We're splitting hairs a little, but I just couldn't be quiet about this any longer. He's not doing the right things. He simply isn't in the zone as long. He's got a pretty significant uppercut. And the thing that's saving him, other than being just a great athlete mechanically, is even with his newer move, this elbow is still very close to his right side and is not jetting out in front of him. So I think that saves a lot, but I'm not a fan of the swing. Now, we go over here, and this is one of his lessons with his instructor, and we kind of scroll through here. He's working on getting in a this is before impact. Now, this is camera blur you see back here. This bat's virtually at impact for all intents and purposes. Let's say it's at impact. His hands and arms. This is what I meant by like he's not in the position he's trying to get to. He's trying to get here. Um, it's crazy. This is a far inferior position to where he is now. This is going off the rails as far as I'm concerned. If he ever gets to this position and he can repeat this, I don't. He's not going to play as well as he can. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, one other quick thing to look at here: all this stuff that happens in the back, where he's dumping the bat and he does a little more of that snapping the barrel, I guess is what Teacher Man calls it. He does it a little more here in a controlled environment. When the game comes, he doesn't do it quite as much, and he also doesn't get his hands and arms so far out in front of him. This line I drew here, this is a 23-degree uptick, and Aaron Judge is practicing this. Again, I mean, I watched the video. I heard what they were talking about. I don't know what the heck he was thinking, either of them, the teacher or the student, or what they're working on. And look, I could be missing something, but I look, he's swinging up at a tremendous angle. And just to give you a little idea, this is the pitch plane. When does he think he's going to make contact? He's going to make contact a foot in front of himself. It's the only place because he got his bat so far below the pitch plane. If we trace it back, look how steep he is. Okay, he's so far below the pitch plane. He has to swing drastically up to get back up to the pitch. Why wouldn't you just swing around yourself on the plane that the pitch is, coming down at? It makes no sense. And to go a little deeper on it, I'm not going to be shy about this. I know Aaron Judge. Again, I love the guy, and I really do believe, game in, game out, he very well could be the best player in baseball. And again, a lot to do with his intelligence as a player, and his defensive ability it's almost as good as his power numbers. If you don't get a chance to see him a lot, I'm sure you catch a highlight on ESPN here and there, but he doesn't boot balls. He doesn't misread balls. He doesn't make inaccurate throws. He is really tremendous on the defensive side. So this doesn't stem from hate for him or the Teacher Man guy. Again, I've studied Teacher Man and I've watched a lot of his stuff, and I feel comfortable saying I understand what he's doing and trying to say. I just don't agree with it. There's no way you need to snap your barrel back or snap anything. It should be much more smooth and fluid, and maybe a slow build into acceleration, in my opinion. So I don't agree with him. But the success he's had with Judge specifically, it's almost an insurmountable amount of evidence that, look, it works. It definitely has worked, okay? I think he would have eventually got himself here, and maybe even, believe it or not, better. That's what I believe, because his swing mechanics, if he ever gets to this point where he's starting to hit this position, man, there's going to be problems. But great athlete, seems like a really good guy. Love Aaron Judge. And his swing isn't garbage. The game time swing, at least. I will say this drill, for whatever they're trying to accomplish, somebody's going to have to explain this to me. This is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And again, I'm open to the idea that I'm missing something, but I'm not arguing the results. They are there. It has worked for one individual, to my knowledge, with this guy. I don't think if he ever, again, gets to this position, it's going to continue to work. It's just not. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Please like and subscribe if you can. That would be great. You can visit thebaseballswing.com. I have a promo going where you can get a swing analysis online lesson, if you will, for $1. That's for a limited time, and that's for new students. So, yeah, I'd love to see you over there. Until next time, guys, have a good night.